There's a delay, so it should be fine. David, I think you should also slightly go further behind, just by a little bit.
Better?
Just give me a minute. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So when David speaks, it will go to David's screen, is it?
Yeah, we can do a test.
David, can you try to speak so that it cuts into your screen?
Right. So then can you hear me now? So does that do it automatically?
Yeah, it's automatic. So when I speak, it will go into my screen, and then when you speak, it will go into yours. And we are live already. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I feel live.
What if I put this? If I see myself, it's fine, right? Okay. Yeah. So whatever I do here, it will not affect that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we are live already. So can you guys see us? If you guys can see us, just give a shout out on Telegram or YouTube. Yeah.
And can they hear us?
They can hear us. So can they see us?
Yeah, we can.
All right. So I see Sylvia, Indra, Santa, Malcolm, etc. saying something on the chat. Okay. All right. Good. So, all right. So, okay, great. All right. So, let's start. And then today's AMA is our Q2 AMA in 2020. And lots of things are taking place and have taken place in the past quarter. And today's AMA is very special because we have another speaker with me today, which is David Bankay.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you, Jack.
Yes, so nice to see you, David. So as you all know, David is our Chief Legal Officer and also the President of FunctionX Foundation. So it is a great pleasure to have you today. And let me just, before I start, give an introduction, or rather a reintroduction to David. So many of you have spoken to David. Some of you have met David in person and also listened to his speeches and writings. So a very interesting fact is that before David became a part of PundiX and helped started PundiX and FunctionX, he wore many interesting caps. So one of them is actually the governing board member of Ethereum Foundation. So in that regard, David really helped start the whole Ethereum Foundation together with Vitalik and the likes. So we want to ask you more about this as well later on. And another thing is that you actually came out of retirement to help start PundiX and FunctionX. And before that, you were actually the chief counsel of Microsoft China. So the first time when you told me in 2015 that you were the chief counsel of legal counsel of Microsoft China, I was like really very impressed. And now that you are the chief legal officer of PundiX, it's sometimes still very hard to imagine, you know, the chief legal officer of Microsoft China. So I've worked in China for 5 years, live and work in China for 5 years. So I know that, you know, being a chief legal officer of a international company such as Microsoft is really a very challenging task. So it gives us a lot of like confidence that, you know, you are actually guiding Pundi X and Function X in that sense. So before we start some of the reporting on AMA, why don't you share with us, like, how did you get into crypto, and why did you like choose Pundi X amongst like so many projects? Yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
Right. So after I left Microsoft, and I had been in China for, 25 years at that point, I was looking for that kind of next great thing. So, 30 years ago, Chinese law was like non-existent. Maybe it's becoming non-existent again. But so it was a a whole new frontier. And so what made, going to China in the 1980s so interesting is that it was uncharted ground and everything was new and you didn't know what to expect. And then over time, it became more established and more settled. And so when I left Microsoft, I was looking for that next frontier. Like what could be as exciting for me as China was 30 years ago. And it was just by kind of coincidence that I found blockchain. And so it came with a woman named Ming Chen, who became the managing director of the Ethereum Foundation. And she called me one night. She was in the States and I was in Beijing. And she called me and was telling me about blockchain and this organization. And I had to have my computer open on Wikipedia to look up all these new words that I had never heard about. And so after that conversation, I thought, here's the new frontier. Here's the next big game changer. Like, this is what would be as exciting for me as China was 30 years ago. And it's proven to be the case. And so then, I started looking at a number of blockchain companies. And then when you approached me, and what made Pundi X different? Well, you had a product. You were beyond a white paper. You were beyond concepts. You had an actual product. And so that was the first thing that really impressed me. And then, to be perfectly honest with you, as we were discussing about me possibly joining, the thing that really tilted it the other way was when you called me up one day and you were at home with your parents and you introduced me to your mom and dad. And so, I, for many years, ran a incubator in Beijing. And so I was dealing with a lot of startups. And so when the founders of a startup introduce you to their parents, that's a game changer for me. Because entrepreneurs will often disappoint investors. They may disappoint colleagues, but they will never disappoint their parents. And so, when you let me, chat with your mom and dad in Mandarin, and I thought, yeah, I'm putting my bet down on this one.
Yeah, very interesting. In fact, when you told me about Ethereum in 2015, it was actually the first time I got to understand more about Ethereum. So it's very interesting, and I think we have come a long way, from the talk that we had in 2015 to you assisting us and also joining us officially. So it has been a great journey, and we really look forward to doing many more things together and serving the community. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yes. So now let's dive into some of the things that we have done in this quarter, and also to share with the community what are the events. So one of the things that we saw happening was that PayPal, the biggest payments app company, has announced that they will be serving the cryptocurrency market, which means that if you have a PayPal app or if you have a PayPal user, you can now use the PayPal system to actually buy and sell cryptocurrency. So we are super happy to share with you, which we have actually, to support PayPal. So right now, I just want to share with you a little bit more. what do we mean by supporting PayPal? So this comes in two angles. One is that if you are one of the tens of millions of users that has PayPal, you can now go to any of our Xpost merchant and then use your PayPal to either buy a cup of coffee or buy cryptocurrency from Xpost. So what it means is that Xpost is now opening access to more than tens of millions of users. So this is number one. The second significance is that through integrating PayPal here, which is one of PayPal's app, we are now enabling the acceptance of credit card on our Xpost system. So right now, this system only allows US-based merchant, which means that US-based Xpost merchant are able to accept crypto credit card from user through our partnership with PayPal. So why just US? Because PayPal here itself only allow US-based business to accept credit card. So what we're doing right now is to explore more possibilities so that people and users from any parts of the world can also be able to pay using credit card on Xpost. So what it means is that two things. If you are a PayPal user, you can now start buying crypto or even just buying coffee in any Xpost locations. And if you're a US-based merchant, that means that our Xpost, which was initially just meant for cryptocurrency, has now finally able to accept credit card, which is something that we have been trying to do since 2018. And what's more is that, you have seen us announcing PayPal, and I have on Twitter also tried to get feedback to say what other apps that we need to integrate. There are many great suggestions, and some have suggested Mercado Pago, Alipay, Venmo, etc. So I will not be able to name names in this AMA, but please rest assured that most of the names that you have mentioned, we have already contacted them and also started trying to do integration months ago. So as always, Pundi X will not announce something that is not happening yet. So we will wait for the final testing confirmation to get this going. So we are starting with PayPal, and we are going towards more and researching on more and more payments possibilities. So the next big thing that we announced in last quarter and end of 2019 is that Xpost is not just a hardware. Xpost is a ecosystem, which means that Xpost can support in the form of a Xpost point of sale terminal, but also it should be able to support many other point of sales terminal. So what we set out to do since last year was to get in touch with all the major point of sales company. And where better to start if not the biggest brand? So what we did was that we managed to get the 3 biggest point of sales terminal in the world, each of them with tens of millions of point of sales terminals in the market. They are Ingenico of Europe, Verifone of US, and also PAX of China. So we have done a lot of technical testing with these companies, and we finally managed to get out all 3 point of sales terminals company and say, your Android-based point of sales will be able to power Xpost software, which means that they can actually turn on the Xpost software and accept cryptocurrency payments and purchases using their existing point of sales terminal. Yes. So the current pandemic climate right now is that it is actually a very challenging climate for many point of sales terminal company, because the truth is, it is for us to, our business, the point of sales company is actually to service retailers and also people visiting restaurant and doing payments and buying stuff physically. So the point of sales companies globally is going through a challenging time, but rest assured that we are really engaging them and really pushing out many of our initiatives. Let me give you an example. For example, what we have done with PAX is that we have officially supported PAX, which means that if you are a PAX distributor, or if you are a PAX merchant, which means that you actually run PAX in your restaurant, you can actually turn on your PAX store in the US and actually download the Expo software to start accepting cryptocurrency payment. So it is like going to Android Play Store or iOS Store to download an app, but the difference is that you are downloading it as a merchant through the PAX point of sale store on your POS, and with that, it will automatically support cryptocurrency payment. So these are the many efforts that we are working with all the point of sales company, and through this, we not only want to power our point of sales through our own Expo's hardware, which we are pushing a lot right now, but also the software ecosystem. So this is point number 2 that I would like to share. Our effort is to make Expos not just a hardware ecosystem, but a full ecosystem whereby anyone which has a point of sales terminal, especially Android powered, will be able to download the Expo software and then power payments of cryptocurrency. So this is something that we are really working very hard on. So speaking of COVID, one thing that we have done during the start of the pandemic is to tell everyone in the company to say that, hey, we need to be extra cautious about this. And in fact, we actually started closing down offices in February. So how did we manage to do that in such a fast turnaround time? I think one of the reasons why we managed to do this like really quick was because we as a company has always been working on building decentralized product, and our people are also very decentralized in the sense that we have people sitting in the Singapore office, in many offices around the world, but we also have people working remotely. So working remotely and being decentralized is actually part of our genetics. And I think that allows us to transition really well into this pandemic. And I would just like to share my personal experience is that during this 2 months of lockdown, I'm pleasantly surprised, but to be honest, not really surprised at all, is that many of the staff, our staff that are working from home, are equally productive, if not even more productive. Many of us, many of the staff have told me that, you know, we by working from home, like really focusing, we can really reflect on so many things that have happened and we have done throughout the 2 years, and really to think through what is really the important stuff and what are really the key things that we need to implement moving forward. In fact, coincidentally, it also shows in our token price and token growth. In the 2 months of this 2 months, I think we have seen a healthy resurgence of our token MPXS. So I think what my point is that as a company, as a Pundi company, we build decentralized product, and we also really believe in our people and has structured the company in a very decentralized way, despite the fact that we have about 7 offices globally. So that allows us to respond things really fast. And I think, David, you yourself are a proponent of, judging a performance not by, a person sitting in the office how many hours, but rather by the performance or the output. So what are your thoughts on this?
So I think, the pandemic has affected and impacted all of us in different degrees, depending on where we're located. And so how lockdowns were implemented, the difficulty of coping with the pandemic. But at the same time, it's also given us an opportunity to feel how interconnected we all are. And so that we're all going through that same experience. And I think, Pundi X already started off with, I think, a very strong company culture but it's really shown through during the pandemic that we still feel this real connectedness, that we're all going through the same thing, but in varying degrees in our personal lives. But I think we're going to get over this at some point from a health perspective. But I think the economic impact is going to be long lasting. And so, I think that's one doesn't like to think of sort of opportunities during a pandemic, but I do think that this has been a great opportunity for both blockchain technology as well as cryptocurrency. And so, we're seeing a questionable stability of the US dollar as the reserve currency. We're seeing announcements of a lot of different countries issuing digital currencies. I think there's a real question as to whether the US dollar can remain as the global reserve currency. And so this is an opportunity for cryptocurrencies to take on a greater, more recognized role. And at the same time, you're seeing blockchain technologies really addressing pandemic problems. And so, when you start tracing people and contacts, then you have a real issue with regard to protection of personal data. And that's an area where blockchain can really help. As we see, we're going to see the development of vaccines. And so being able to trace and ensure the quality and the genuineness of vaccines, that's another area where blockchain is going to really, take its role. So, the pandemic has been like many things. There are sort of silver linings to it. And again, I think it's helped us feel as a company, at least from my perspective, more cohesive, more together.
Yes. It's interesting that you talk about the silver lining, which I will try to touch later on about some of the things that the different governments is doing and how we play a role in it. And you are heavily involved in this. And you mentioned about economic impact. So one of the things that we realized was that when this whole thing blew up, the people that are most affected by are actually the retailers, the people that open physical store, and in extension, the services that is connected to that. That includes, acceptance of payments, point of sales terminal. So in the last quarter, we said that, this year we will not be taking any profit from the retailers. Essentially just giving all the profits that PundiX is making back to the retailers, because at this point of the time, the retailers and PundiX distributor are the one that is most heavily impacted. And naturally, as a token holder, many tokens holder will be slightly disappointed by this, because that means that we won't be having any much burning of the token. So the token removal will be insubstantial this year. But I actually stand by our decision to do that, which is to not take the profit now from the retailers and the distributor, because it is they who need this the most. And if we lose this network of business, essentially these are the touch points for us to regular consumers. So we need to support them. So I stand by the decision that we will not do any token removal for the profit that we make from expos, but rather give it back to the retailers, the restaurants, and the distributor. And in fact, with that help, they would also need more help, but we do however small we can. So I really think that what we do during hard times, during challenging time, will reflect on us, on how people see us as a company. So this is what we are doing in 2020, and I hope everyone can support our decision for this. So next, David, back to the point that you mentioned about countries. So you mentioned that there are many challenges. People, central banks are printing a lot of money, and in some ways, the equity market has dislocated from the real economy. And you mentioned about countries going into digital assets, and one thing that you have supported strongly is our application to be more compliant. So can you share with us what are the things that we have done in terms of being a compliant entity in the space?
Right. So you'll remember at the beginning of the year, I said 2020 was going to be the year of compliance. And I think that's proven to be the case. And so we're seeing regulatory agencies globally paying greater attention to cryptocurrencies. And that's kind of a double-edged sword. So on the bad side, that creates a lot more pain points for companies as well as for customers. And so that, you have to develop really robust KYC and AML platforms and processes in order to satisfy the regulators. And that's costly and it's painful. Yesterday, I went through a KYC and I would say pulling my hair out, but I guess that's already over with. But it was really difficult and arduous. But the good side, so even though it's painful and there are costs involved, the good side is that this requirement for compliance weeds out the less serious players. It weeds out scammers. Because it does take this additional effort. So I do see this greater regulation and insistence on compliance to actually be a positive thing in the long run. Painful in the short run and costly in the short run, but I think in the long run, the industry and consumers who are involved with it are gonna profit by it.
I remember that the letter that you wrote about being more compliant that you wrote to our community, and we are really taking many of the steps to really get to there. And one thing that we did was to actually apply for the Payment Services Act in Singapore. So why the Payment Services Act and why Singapore? So tell us.
So it like compliance in general, applying for this license is a double-edged sword. It is a very difficult process. It is also a costly process in terms of putting in all of these procedures and tracking and checking that the licensing requires. It's also difficult in that this is a new regulation for Singapore. And so they're also kind of feeling their way through it. But on the good side, so Singapore, like a number of small democracies, has really been on the forefront of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And so Singapore is also committed to being the gold standard when it comes to compliance. And so it is committed to making the process, while difficult, they're going to make it so that those people who pass through, that those companies that do ultimately get licensed, are really at a level that is going to be, I think, ultimately recognized globally. So as other companies, larger countries that are also implementing the same types of compliance and licensing requirements, they're going to be looking and they go, well, you've passed the the requirements for a Singapore license, and so that's already kind of a gold star. We may even find some countries that will accept the licensing that's done in Singapore as a for a quick path to licensing in other locations. So it's been a great ordeal. I would like to call out Balin, who is acts as our compliance officer, who's had to keep very, very close track of what the ministry is doing, as well as to help us internally implement all of these required systems. So again, would one rather have not had licensing requirements? Well, that, that ship has passed. So we now have, this challenge in front of us, but I think it has been a great opportunity for us to internally implement all of these things that will make us a better company and a more trusted company in the market.
Yeah, one thing that I really agree with you is that the Payment Services Act given out by MAS, which is the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which was actually voted the best central bank last year, is very rigorous. The process of application, the testing, the documentation and checking is really very rigorous. So like you, David, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the team, every department that is like getting involved and really getting this going. So thank you guys. And again, many of the questions are being asked on Reddit, on Telegram, on Twitter, and let us try to like look at it. This time we received a lengthy letter from a community member, and one of the questions that he or she asked is that what is happening with the Dubai project. So as you remember, in 2018, we actually signed an MOU with mCredit, which is the credit bureau of Dubai under the Ministry of Finance, to roll out X-Post and support the digital asset or digitization of Dubai's Ministry of Finance. So as of right now, we are still waiting for mCredit and also the Ministry of Finance to really tell us or give us the green light to move ahead. I believe that they are still studying the proposal of how they should do it in their region, in their country. And what we are doing is really to assist them and to communicate with them. And when they are ready to roll out, we are there to assist. So as of right now, we haven't implemented and roll out X-Post for mCredit based on the simple fact that mCredit itself is still requesting approval from the ministry to start the rollout. So this is the status as we are, and it is as it is, and we are sharing with you guys. The second question that some of you have asked is that what is going on with Truckee, which is the biggest departmental store in Venezuela. So when we went into Venezuela and researched on the market, we realized that there's a huge pent-up need for cryptocurrency. In fact, our test cases of X-Post in Truckee was actually one of the most used X-Post in any market. Everyday people go there and use our X-Pass card to tap on X-Post and buy things using cryptocurrency. Right now, the situation with Venezuela is that we need 2 approval to really get going because of the growth on the test pilot that we have now. One is the superintendent, which is the superintendent of cryptocurrency of Venezuela, is talking to us and we are finding out the official legal status of how or if we can roll out in Venezuela. The second thing is that, as you know, right now there is a sanction towards Venezuela. In fact, there are chatters that the Petro coin is also under scrutiny. So, and the other aspect is that, as David has said, we need to be a compliant entity, and that as well, we need to have a green light to know that we can roll out in Venezuela. If the international sanction, especially US, doesn't allow it, then we would have to get the permission from them. So we need to get the permission from both the Venezuelan side and the international community to really do a extensive rollout in Venezuela. So as of right now, we are not doing any major rollout until the air has cleared. So this is another question that is being asked. So maybe David would also like to add some things on the compliance side and how we have come to decide on that.
Right. So this, I talked about the, how interconnected we all are. And that means as a global company, we have to, be compliant as best we can with our major markets. And so when there's a decision on the part of major markets like the United States and Europe and Asia with regard to the activities of another country like Venezuela, then we have to be very, very sensitive to that. And we can't do anything that would endanger our activities in other companies, in other countries, because of what we're doing in one country. So Venezuela is again, it's a very potent, it has huge potential, as many markets in Latin and South America. But we have to approach it, I think, with greater sensitivity than we do with other markets because of its current situation.
So that is true. Latin America has a huge potential, and we have always been seeing great uptake from that continent. In fact, today I will not share a lot about X Wallet numbers. We will have a separate report on that. But let me just give you a sneak peek. The country that has the biggest cryptocurrency transaction on Xpos is again from a Latin American country. So if you want to know what country that is, stay tuned and check out our report, which will be coming out later. Next, let's just move gears and talk about FunctionX. So we have announced FunctionX more than 18 months ago, and we've been working on FunctionX, getting the code going for more than 18 months. All of you has been super patient to wait for the launch, and we are glad that in June we have managed not to launch just one, but actually 4 products related to FunctionX. We have launched FunctionX Explorer, FX Explorer. FX Explorer is essentially a blockchain explorer allowing you to look at the transaction and the block that are created in the FunctionX testnet. Very similar to FX Explorer is Etherscan, which everyone uses for your Ethereum transaction. So FX Explorer is Etherscan plus also different elements, including the list of the validators, including the delegators. So we have launched FX Explorer in June. And a few days after FX Explorer, we launched FX Connect. So what is FX Connect really? Why another wallet? The reason why we need FX Connect is to have a separate, independent wallet to store your private key. When you do transaction, you can sign your transaction using the private key through FX Connect. Another company who did something similar was MyEther Wallet. For MyEther Wallet user, you will realize that they came out with Mu Connect, MyEther Wallet Connect, which is really to store your private key in a separate app. So FX Connect is very similar to Mu Connect, which is for user to sign your transaction, for validators to sign your block, for delegators to sign your transaction to delegate your tokens to the validators. So by having FX Connect, we give you a more secure, a stronger way to connect your usage through the blockchain. And right after FX Connect, we launched FX Cloud, which is a major product. In David's word, it's like launching a WordPress when everyone is still coding. What it means is that using FX Connect, we can allow validators to actually a user to create validators through the few clicks of the mouse without coding. This is a huge departure from the existing way of setting up validators, whereby you really need to be a hardcore coder to do it. So what it means is that people are able to become validator by setting up the validator through if I may, what you see is what you get, few mouse click away. So we feel that this is a huge win. And from our beta testing, whereby we allow people to register to become a validator, the response has been overwhelming, and we have allowed 50 lucky users to become a validator. And using FX Connect, they have been successful in setting up the FX validator in the FX Cloud. So this proves that, to get validator out in a mass adoption, FX Cloud is playing a crucial role. So with the launch of FX Explorer, FX Connect, and FX Cloud that allows us to give you our FX testnet. FX testnet is a precursor to our mainnet launch, and there are many things that we need to iron out, but with the testnet launch, many of you have been able to experience how fast our transactions are. One user actually texted me and said he has never seen a confirmation time that is so fast. So how competitive we are very confident that we are very competitive. So David, I know you also have set up a validator yourself. Tell us, what's your experience?
It was really great. And so, you know, I mean, the ethos behind Pundi X was accessibility and ease of use in terms of cryptocurrency. And so I think we've taken that same concept, that same ethos, and brought it up to a new level, brought it to blockchain. And so, you know, I mean, I made that analogy with WordPress, because I remember, you know, having to hire coders and developers to be able to, you know, set up a website. And so when something like WordPress or Wix came out, all of a sudden I was empowered to do it myself. And I think that's what, you know, hopefully what FunctionX is really creating, a whole new ecosystem that allows someone with a very limited technical background like me to be able to not only access the blockchain, but to be able to set up things on the blockchain. So I never thought I'd be able to be a validator or a miner on the blockchain. But, you know, those were really great. We had really great videos to help us, you know, in terms of setting up the validation. And it became a really fun process. I mean, it was, you know, it was like a game. And so, you know, and you were watching how other validators were operating, and, you know, the different impacts of commission rates and all of these things. So it was really a great and exciting learning experience, and made me, you know, really proud that we're going to be, I think, at the forefront of a revolution that's going to enable people to deal with the blockchain in a new and different way. It's not going to require the type of programming experience or knowledge to be able to really access and build on the blockchain.
That's great, because through introducing FX Cloud, the non-coding way of setting up the validator, our 50 validators, lucky participants, have been able to set up fairly quickly. In fact, less than an hour after we announced FX Cloud, we are already seeing validators up and running. And in fact, it is so straightforward that we have also managed to talk to partners that are interested and to just set it up on the fly with some technical understanding. They have been able to set up. Chief among them is EUC, European University of Cyprus, which actually set up a validator with us. There's a co-working space in Taiwan, a big one, which has also set up a validator with us. So we look forward to invite more and more enterprise level validators, especially government related validators, to come in and test and make sure that the governance model of FunctionX testnet is accurate and strong. So how does FunctionX and PundiX come together? One thing that we've been stressing a lot, which is a pretty big topic, a heavy topic, is that FunctionX is an ecosystem itself that will connect different cross-chain and on-chain application. It will connect expos to SMS sending, from Bob to other blockchains, basically introducing other enterprise into the blockchain ecosystem through the FunctionX ecosystem, the FunctionX blockchain, which means that the next time when I do a transaction using NPXS on Expos, it will go from Expos to, say, another big payments company through the FunctionX network. So what it means is that both of these are actually in tandem and have a symbiotic relationship. FunctionX launch will harness Expo's strength even bigger and allow more deployment through our own Expos and also other Expo software. So I'm super excited and super glad that we are embarking on this journey, and that is just going on so well. Right. So I have also said that I'll be making some announcement in the AMA today. So let me just share with you one announcement that many of you have already known, which is the Crypto Zoo. So we have partnered with a team to build Crypto Zoo, and with Crypto Zoo, you have the Bear application and the Boo application. It is not very straightforward to be understood, but let me say again, it is a way for you to hedge your cryptocurrency, whereby, take for example, if you have BTC and you want to use BTC to buy NPXS, if the price of BTC goes higher or faster than NPXS, you get back your BTC, thus keeping your actual value of your BTC. So you don't lose anything and you don't make anything. But if the price of NPXS goes up more than the BTC, then you will get the NPXS instead, which means that you have made a earnings from this. So bull or bear, depending if you are long or short your digital asset. So right now we are giving out to about 300 beta testers this feature, and these 300 guys are like super excited because every day when we launch the bear or the bull, it gets taken up very fast, and we are looking forward to launch it for all the users on X Wallet very soon. So stay tuned for Crypto Zoo, and when Crypto Zoo comes out, look for your bear or your bull depending on your taste. Now, finally, one announcement that I want to make. One more thing. We have launched Expos, and Expos are available on Amazon US, Amazon Japan, Newegg, Shopify, and etc. And I've always said that we want to launch our own e-commerce portal. So with this, the announcement is that we will be launching our own e-commerce portal. So for everyone that is sitting in front of the PC right now, type in shop.pundiX.com and you will see that from now on, Expos is being purchasable from our e-commerce and sent to you globally. So we're super excited, and we hope that you will be supporting this effort to get things rolled out. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have come to our end of the presentation. So, David, do you have any last words to share with our community? What do you see in 2020, and how do you see us moving towards a stronger growth?
Right. So, I mean, we've begun as a community-powered organization, and we continue to be that way. And so, I think sometimes it's a little bit difficult for community members to really appreciate how valuable they are to us, and how much we appreciate, their participation, how we do listen, to their comments, to their reactions, and that really inspires us and motivates us to grow even greater. And so, it's been that way with Expos and with NPXS, and I feel it also coming along with FunctionX. And what I would really like to encourage and really hope is that developers will see the potential of the FunctionX ecosystem, that all of a sudden this opens up a whole new ecosystem for developers to build dApps and create new things. And we really welcome and encourage developers to join along and to help us in terms of our road to development.
Yes, I really feel that we have grown from a community-driven now to a community-driven plus also a team that has execution towards a business product. So this is a huge growth, and I'm really lucky. We are really lucky to be able to grow alongside many of the community members. Some of you have been with us since the very start in 2017. So once again, thank you. And I think it is an opportune time that we are seeing that we are past the worst in terms of the 2020 current climate. And from now on, things will be going even better and even faster. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we look forward to talk to you soon. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.